in all my conversations with business owners and startup founders, there's always a theme that comes back up. It's the statement of, yeah, it was the perfect idea. This is a myth that holds true for so many years already. And when I was starting out, I also believed in it. I believed that I had the perfect idea that I couldn't talk to anyone about, not if they wouldn't sign a non-disclosure agreement, a non-compete with me, and whatever else I wanted, because I had to protect this precious idea. It was like a dragon egg that you could not find anywhere, and I had it. And yeah, long story short, that idea flopped. So what did we learn from that? There is no perfect idea. Now I'm 8 years in the world of startups, of business and development and growth and all that stuff. And when there's one thing that holds true over and over again, is that there is no perfect idea. No matter how hard you think or how hard you believe in your idea, it's not going to be perfect. So what I found is that we should always work under the pretense that every idea is bad, that every idea is flawed, and that every idea is not going to work. Well then, now you might say, well, why do we even start a business then? Well, that's a good question. There is a good point to be made about finding the least bad idea. So what does that mean? So when you're just starting out, you're looking for a business idea to start, you're asking a lot of questions. Now the interesting question is it a good idea? I would like to flip it around and ask what is bad about that idea and what makes it less bad than the other ideas I have. So with that question, we're not trying to argue against the idea, we're trying to actually argue for the idea. But we're trying to be as critical as possible about it, because running or following up with that idea, there are many things that we need to take in consideration. So one thing that tells me when I'm talking to a founder or business owner that just starts, is just about to start, is the statement of like, hey, I can't tell you my idea exactly because I don't want you to copy it. And I'm like, okay, well, there's somebody that talks about the perfect idea. That's not gonna happen. So just dial it back. You can tell me your idea, because there are 3 reasons why you should talk about your ideas more than actually keep them to yourself. Number 1, you actually get feedback. And if you talk with business owners, they actually give you feedback that is valid, that is going to give you reasons why your idea is bad. And also tips that you should take to heart to avoid, to not make the same mistakes they did. That's how this video came along too. The second reason is you actually train to talk about your idea. If you go and try to get funding, if you try to get customers, if you try to move anything forward in your business, you need to get good at explaining what you do and explaining your idea. And no matter how often you will train it and practice it in the shower, it's not going to meet or to get anywhere without you practicing talking about it. And the third point why you need to share your idea, even if it's the perfect idea, is because of the networking effect. So often now in my first idea, it was really hard because I kept it as like the hidden treasure and the gem that was bound to be the greatest idea ever. Now in the following ideas, I always started with talking to my friends, talking to other business owners to get feedback on it, because they also know what is possible. And then he's like, oh yeah, have you tried this? Or recently I heard about that guy doing this, maybe that's actually helpful to you too. And so you get to have a conversation about it that is actually helpful to build your business up faster. And that is a big bonus that you can get only from sharing your idea. Now you might be thinking, oh well, that's good and well, but how do I make sure that people don't rip me off? Well, most people don't have the skills that you have to pull it off. Most people don't have the time to pull it off. And most people don't actually have the money to pull it off. And most importantly, they don't want to sacrifice their money, their time to actually follow up with that idea, because they know that most ideas are bad ideas. And so the opportunity cost for them is way too big to even think like, oh, I should go in that market, or I should do that. Because it just, like, most of the business owners that you know have already a business. So why should they go and start another one? Now, there could be a point where somebody is exactly trained as you, knows it, knows also that he has money, that he's looking for an idea, and he just takes you up on it. Well, in that rare occasion, I would say, well, just find another idea, because obviously that one you weren't meant to do. And hard as it sounds, ideas for businesses, there are millions of those. And not everybody is able to pull every idea off. So you can be calm that your idea is not going to be stolen. Well, on the other hand, you could also say, well, how big is the chance of somebody doing the same thing or having the same thought that you have on the other side of the world? So that there is actually a competitor out there already that has the same idea, and that happens also fairly often. And so to think like, oh, I'm the unique butterfly, when there's 1,000 other butterflies in the room, is kind of funny. But besides that, so the myth of the perfect idea is not going to get you anywhere, because it keeps you from actual business growth. It keeps you from actually acting as quick as possible, testing the idea, and with the understanding of, oh, my idea is actually bad, let's see if it actually could work, means that you test faster, you iterate faster, you ship faster, because you actually need some proof that you're not a fool believing that your perfect idea is bound to make you rich. Whereas most ideas turn out to be failures, and yeah, they just don't work in the first place. So most ideas that will make it, and that's now the next thing that you need to consider when you're considering whether an idea is good or not to follow through, is to ask yourself, am I willing to pay the price it takes? Most ideas are bad ideas. Then there are a few less bad ideas that are actually worth pursuing. Now the question is, well, how do I know if I should pursue it? Because I would believe that, or I do believe that most ideas actually can work. You just need a long enough time horizon, you need enough knowledge, experience, and funding to actually make them work. So that pretense means that there's actually no impossible idea. It might just not be the right time, it might not be the right moment, or you might not be the right person. But that's something you can figure out either through research in the first place, and then second, testing it, and then actually checking if you can make it work. So that's all good and well. But one thing that nobody is talking about is, are you willing to sacrifice to make this idea possible? And I know Alex Hormozi has talked about that a lot, where he said, yeah, if you're starting, assume that it's going to cost double as much, and assume that it'll be 3 times the time that you're assuming it's going to take. So if you're like, oh, it's going to work in 1 year, you should plan on it taking 3 years. If you say like, oh, it's going to be an upfront investment of 100,000, assume that it's going to be a 200,000 investment. Well, because that's just the truth for most businesses, that they don't work out the way you think they are. And so, are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to do the hard work for years and not getting paid, pursuing that idea? And so that's the question you need to ask yourself to figure out whether it's an idea worth pursuing, or whether it's an idea that you might think is good, but is actually not yours to do. So that is what is needing to be said about the myth of the perfect idea. If you would like to have more concise ideas in your inbox, you can sign up for my newsletter. It's linked below. And I would love if I would see you there, because I write the newsletters by hand every morning because I want them to be special and I want them to be as personal as they can be. And so, until next time, keep chopping the wood, and we'll see you then.